was it that Ruben said again? That comment on One Star.
Oh yeah.
Coop looks like he just got done with his job as a bathroom attendant at the Glory Hole.
Yeah.
Fucking Ruben, son of a bitch, burn me.
Drink, Ruben.
Welcome to the Iconoblast podcast. This is the show that takes a look behind the public facades of famous icons to show you why you can never take anything at face value. And we have video again.
Video's back.
Iconoblast. We put the past on blast. Hit them with the truth, with things you never knew. Nobody is safe, no thing to place. Got Joel and Coop with history in your face. Iconoblast.
Also, we'd like to welcome you to the American Media Studios studio. The bullshit that I kept talking about, saying like, oh, you know, I'm real busy working on something, got this project going. This is what I've been working on the whole time.
Coop's got his own setup now.
Got my own studio down here in Boerne, Texas, and I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
Joel came out here today to help me set up
fucked
all
up
the lighting
for our show. It's real dark in here, but it's actually
well,
nice
it
if
looks
you could
cool.
see it.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're listening to audio, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to help us with our numbers. And if you are in our Monday night premieres, Monday nights at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, why don't you go ahead and give that like button a little
Flick the bean, yeah.
Flick the bean.
But yeah, video's back.
That's what we
nice.
should be saying for hit the like button. Is just flick the bean or something like that. Because I always hear people saying like, "Oh, smash the like button." You sound like
Hammer
a
the
fucking
like
asshole.
button.
I don't like it. We're unique. Flick the bean. Gently finger the like button. Rub the like button's labia dry, and then ask it if it came.
That's hot.
I know that's my number one maneuver. Like that's my go-to. Just dry rub one of the lips for like 15 minutes until they tell you to stop, and you're like, all right, I'm going to bed.
Okay. Hey, whatever makes you happy.
Because I'm a gentleman. So today is everyone's favorite holiday. Do you know what holiday it is?
President's Day?
It's President's Day. So in honor of President's Day, we will be telling the story of the most presidential of presidents who set a precedent for future presidents.
Donald Trump.
Exactly. We are going to be talking about Donald J. Trump. No, we're going to be talking about George Washington. Arguably the second best president, slightly behind Donald Trump. Just above,
according to Donald.
Just above Lincoln, just under Trump.
When he was selling his NFTs, he said that about himself.
Well, he was saying that he was better than Lincoln, which
Lincoln?
I think that Lincoln is
I thought it was George Washington.
fairly widely agreed to be one of the best, if not the best president that we've ever had. My personal favorite is Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, Teddy's tough.
Teddy's like
He's the
by
toughest
far
for
my
sure.
favorite. Oh fuck yeah, dude! That guy, he almost, what was it? He like went deaf in one ear because he was boxing while he was in the White House. Like as president, he was still boxing. That guy was a fucking badass.
Why aren't we doing him today?
Well, I wanted to start at the beginning, dude. We need to make sure. No, we got to. No, we got to
so
stretch out the
structured.
content. We're going to be doing this for the next 40 years. We only have
40?
like 46 presidents to work with, 47 presidents to work with. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So I'm starting at the beginning. And then
Can we
we'll
go
just,
like beginning, present, beginning, present, beginning, present?
Oh, like come at it from both sides.
Yeah.
Give the line of presidents the old Chinese finger trap.
Yeah. Can we do that?
And then we touch tips in the middle. Yeah,
But then
we
we'd
can
have
give it a shot.
We can skip Biden though, can't we?
He-
There's probably a lot of dirt on him.
Oh, there's a shitload of dirt on Biden. Dude, he is. So a lot of people give Nixon credit as like the most corrupt president in recent history because I mean we don't even know the corruption that went on with some of the earlier presidents.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say that Nixon is like the most corrupt president in recent history. Holy shit. You have to go through and look at stuff that Joe Biden has said on camera over the course of his entire career. It is unfucking believable. Like I absolutely cannot believe that even the people who currently support him, if they would just take the time to go back and look at all the shit that he said in the past, he's a fucking asshole. Like he's a huge piece of shit. Not the best president in my opinion.
How many presidents were okay and how many were pieces of shit? Like to our standards. I know that everybody has a little bit of little poo-poo on them, you know? You can't be perfect. You're human.
Everybody's kind of a piece of shit.
But like what is the ratio?
60-40. If I'm being
60%
generous,
are fucked up.
60% are pieces of shit, and 40% are slightly smaller pieces of shit.
Okay.
They did good things along with being a piece of shit. But yeah, we have
that's human.
never had a president that isn't a piece of shit because we are
Is
human.
George a piece of shit?
We're
gonna find out, aren't we?
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think he was. Like, I don't think Lincoln was a piece of shit either.
Okay.
because I know
We did Lincoln, didn't we?
I
was
think,
that in the old round?
I think that was in the old round. I think we did an episode about Confederate iconography, and we talked about Lincoln in that
A lot
episode.
about Lincoln.
Because he played a big role in getting rid of the Confederates,
Mm-hmm.
which we got to be careful about talking shit about the Confederates because we're in their territory right now.
Is that what we are?
We're living in the South. So, just, I don't know.
They don't exist anymore, though.
Not the way that they used to, but there's some people that are really fucking holding on to that shit, and I just don't get it. I mean, I can understand, okay, if you consider it to be your heritage, I still just don't understand. Like, I'm not gonna claim the losing side.
Yeah, or you can talk about it and be like, this is important to remember this time, but you don't have to go by those beliefs still. It's 2023.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you cannot go by those beliefs anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of the way that I look at it is if you're the type of person that flies the Confederate flag, which you are free to do, I do believe that you are absolutely free to do that, and I don't think that you should really give people shit for it because it's not that big of a fucking deal. But if you're the type of person that flies the Confederate flag, you're probably the type of person that's like a Raiders fan. You're just a perpetual underdog fan.
If you're a Raiders fan, then fuck you.
Dude, Raiders fans are worse than slave owners. So before we begin the story, let's start off by addressing the elephant in the room. Yes.
That's rude.
What?
Not
everything's about you, Joel. Yes, Washington was a slave owner. There, got it out of the way right in the beginning. Yes, he was a slave owner. So was literally everybody fucking else who had the money for it during his lifetime.
Okay.
Like pretty much everybody who had any money or had enough money for it would.
How many
own
presidents
slaves?
had slaves?
All of them up to
The first 10 or something?
all of them up to Lincoln. So that would be what, the first 15, first 16?
But how many had slaves that were alive and then became president after? That would still be a president that had slaves, right? Like who was after Lincoln? Jefferson?
Their slaves became president?
No, who was after Lincoln?
Fuck, man, I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about American history, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'm for sure the president after Lincoln had slaves at some point.
No, because it was that was when slavery was abolished.
Right, but before it was abolished, he was probably in his 30s.
Oh, so he had slaves,
until
while it was legal,
yeah,
and then became president later after slavery was. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that would still fall under
Fillmore. No, it wasn't Fillmore. I'm trying to think. I know the president that followed up Lincoln was.
Who was the one that
huge
did the speech in the rain and was already sick and then died later from it? It was only president for like a month.
Oh shit! Was that?
And they put leeches on him and shit to try to save him, but it was
Madison
the leeches
or something
that
like
killed
that.
him.
There's a handful of presidents that have died in really, really stupid ways, and one of them is I don't remember. Frightening me. I know that you're in the YouTube premiere right now. Why don't you go ahead and just drop that in the live chat and let everybody know what president we're talking about? He's our in-house fact checker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the guy that you're talking about. It was because his inauguration speech went on for so long that he ended up getting pneumonia or something like that.
Yeah, and he wanted to be tough, so he like did it in a t-shirt when it was like freezing outside.
He did it in a fishnet tank top and some chaps.
High heels.
High heels.
So he looked taller. It was behind the podium.
He obviously had some image issues.
Yeah.
So anyone who had enough money owned slaves back then. So don't come at me with that George Washington was bad because of slavery bullshit, because we've talked about it on the show so many times before. You cannot hold historic figures to modern day moral standards. You can hold them to the standards of their time. And
yeah, that's what makes it difficult. You have to figure out what it was like at the time and then judge them for their actions.
Yes. So there are people throughout history that were horrible when judged against for that time period. They were still assholes. I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody.
You don't have to like that there were slaves ever, regardless of the time. Like I'm not a big fan of it personally. You know,
I'm still kind of on the fence.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at George for having slaves. Is what I'm saying.
That's the thing. And honestly,
but I am a little bit.
It's a shitty thing to do.
I understand that it was the norm.
But before, something else that we've talked about on the show also is before you start getting up in arms over the founding fathers having slaves, Why don't you go ahead and get rid of your iPhone? Never buy a Tesla. Don't own anything that has a lithium-ion battery inside of it. Don't eat chocolate. Don't buy anything from Nike.
No cocaine either.
No cocaine either. Is it really worth it? Because all of that stuff comes from slave labor.
So in a way, we all still have slaves. It's just like we've put so much in between it that we don't have to even notice.
You know, realistically, we are worse than George Washington. George Washington was a direct slave owner, but he freed his slaves at the end of his life.
And he only probably had like 40 slaves.
It's somewhere between 40 and
How
60.
many
I mean,
kids
that's
worked on the
hardly
iPhone?
anything.
Is it like a chain, like a Congo
know.
line, like a
It's
like a factory
Congo
line? And they eat like each kid has one part of the iPhone and they plug it in. So like it takes like 1,000 kids to make your specific iPhone.
And there's only enough energy in their bodies for one single phone. So every single iPhone in
it's like per
existence,
day.
1,000 children died building it. Every single component going into the iPhone killed a child. You fucking heartless bastards.
It's probably true though, but not in that exact way. But
Maybe not 1,000, but yeah.
At least one kid probably dies per phone.
I think that would be a pretty safe figure, honestly.
That's fucked up.
Are you going to give up your iPhone? Are you going to give up anything that runs off of lithium-ion batteries?
Fuck, I don't think so.
Then we are both. I won't either. We're both worse than George Washington. We're never going to free our slaves.
Yeah, because we can't see it.
Out of sight, out of mind. Which I mean, it's understandable, but it's there.
How selfish are we?
Like anybody,
We're so fucking selfish that it's so deep inside of us that we don't even care. We know the fact. We know it's true.
Well, I think
slaves made this.
Saying that it's out of sight, saying that it's something that you're so far removed from that it just doesn't seem real. You're not seeing it firsthand. I think that if you had to, like, if you went to an Apple store and there were literally a bunch of children like chained to a table,
that would
putting
be
the phones
awesome.
together, what?
I'd want to see that.
You got like 20 kids chained to a picnic
hate
table
kids.
that are just starving to death. I mean,
Can you hit them?
I don't like them either.
I'd pay for that. If you could legally like beat up a little kid.
You don't have to.
I'm kidding. God damn it.
You don't have to pay to hit kids. You can do that for free. Super easy. Just go to any playground, walk up and punch one.
Yeah, but
of
you
them.
can get in trouble for that.
Well, yeah.
Because you can't even hit your own kids anymore.
Oh, yeah, you can. You just make sure you hit them hard enough that they know if they say anything, it's going to be trouble.
You have to hit them in the right areas where it doesn't.
Yeah.
No visible marks.
Just like Bing Crosby used to do. So it's also important to note that the device you're using to listen to this episode contains components that were manufactured using slave labor. So go wash the sand out of your vagina and then come back and let's listen to this episode. I have a feeling that none of our listeners are really up in arms over this type of shit. They get it. That history is.
I think they get it by now. Well, we do get new listeners that maybe aren't used to this type of stuff yet.
True. So for the new listeners, you can't hold it against historical figures that they were slave owners. I mean, you really can't. That would be like in the future.
You can hate slavery. You can hate the fact that was something that happened.
It's a huge part of human history. It's horrible, but it's
Yeah.
always been a part of humanity. So
I don't think if George was born and raised nowadays that he would want slaves.
Yeah. You can look at it
I don't
like
think so.
Like, let's say 100 years from now, when everybody is driving an electric vehicle and they look back at people that had vehicles that burn fossil fuels and they're like, oh, those fucking monsters, they were killing the planet. Well, if you look at what everybody else is driving right now, that's just kind of what you had to do during the times. There weren't many other options.
They're probably going to be like we were all slave owners.
Everybody, once
global slave owners.
Once AI gets big enough, people are going to look back and be like, oh, all those people with Alexa in their home, just telling Alexa what to do all the time, the fucking monsters. So yeah, you can't hold historical figures to modern day morals, and we've said that on the show a lot before. But I just want to reiterate that because I don't go into Washington's.
We're going to be called slave owners.
Oh,
because think about this: the world is always getting smaller, right? You could see anywhere now. You used to not be able. You couldn't know what fucking Istanbul looked like. It would be you'd have to go to a library and you'd look at an old black and white photo in a book.
That was probably already an outdated photo. It was like a photo that was
you never really knew anything
old.
going on. Now it's so close. You can fly there in a day, 2 days. You can look it up. You can look up Instagram in Istanbul and see people walking on the streets like in 2 seconds. So, in 10 more years, those slave children making our phones, it's going to be like they're right next to us. Then we will be slave owners for sure.
Yeah,
But
that's going to
once
make it a
it's
little
like
bit.
50 years from now, they won't even understand how the world was that big that we didn't know they existed. They'll be like, how the fuck?
That's true. I think by
How
then,
the fuck did Coop and Joel sit there and do a podcast talking shit about it, laughing about it, when they literally had slave children make their phones for them? Those pieces of shit.
and that's how they're going to look at it. Also, it's like they had slave children build their
Yeah,
phones.
that's how it'll
those
be
fucking
said.
monsters.
You guys were all slave owners.
Yeah, on a long enough timeline, everybody is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like the way that morals change over time. Because even if they go in the
We
opposite
kind of know
direction,
right now that we're pieces of shit. For,
well, yeah,
for
I mean that's
having all these luxuries that were made by children.
that's what makes us good people. Is because at least we know
Oh, that's what
that we're terrible people.
that makes us worse people. If we didn't know we're still good people, we didn't know. But now that we know and we keep doing it, that makes us even worse than we already were.
No, see what makes us good people is we know about it and we kind of feel a little bad about it instead of just being like, oh well, fuck it, that's how it works. It's like, no, it's bad. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to give up
No,
my phone.
I think that's actually worse. If
I'd
you
like to
actually
buy a
believe
Tesla
that's how it
someday.
works, and it just is the way it is, and it sucks, that makes you less of a bad person. Knowing that it's bad and feeling that it's bad and you still do it is worse. You're worse of a person.
Okay, I'm gonna have to reassess my feeling of child slavery because maybe I am a piece of shit. I mean, for other reasons, yes, that's definitely true. But for this specific reason, maybe I am like even more of a piece
Are there
of shit
any
than I
phones
thought.
that aren't made by
No.
slaves? So you just
No.
have to not have a
I mean,
phone.
if you build one yourself, maybe, but like
Computers?
What network are you? Computers, maybe. Ugh, I mean, that's rough.
You'd have to get a tower that doesn't have a battery.
Yeah, which pretty much they all do. I don't know if actually they probably are lithium-ion batteries at this point. You can't buy electronics without participating in some form
So
of
you'd
slavery.
have to let go of electronics to be a good person.
You would have to turn into Ted Kaczynski. You'd have to
So-
turn into the Unabomber. You move into a cabin out in the middle of the woods. You start writing manifestos on like an old school mechanical typewriter, and look what happened to him.
Good person.
And the government threw him in prison because he was going against the grain. So don't go against the grain.
It's a tough life.
Buy every new iteration of the iPhone. Maybe buy an Android if you're one of the poors, as Jesse would call them.
Fuck. That's a tough one.
But still, either way, you're going to be participating in slavery. I mean, chocolate, clothes. Like
I don't eat chocolate
There
anymore.
is. Do you wear clothes? I think you know that's true. Clothes are cameras. Use cameras.
I love cameras.
Lithium-ion batteries.
God damn.
That's coming directly from.
I only
from
use wall
slave
power.
labor.
What if you use film cameras?
Okay, there might be
Analog
a
cameras.
little bit of a work. Well, then if you're using film cameras, that means you're in the film industry, and that means you're obviously a rapist.
True.
So you're trading in being a slave owner for being a rapist.
Rapist is better.
It,
Unless it's child rape.
that's a bit of it's a bit of a hot take. George Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. As a child, he was curious and adventurous, always getting into mischief. While the precocious little scamp was indeed mischievous, the story of him chopping down the cherry tree is total bullshit. The allegory was cooked up by his biographer Mason Locke Weems, who apparently thought Washington's life wasn't interesting enough already. That was just an extra little bit of spice that he decided to throw on top. So it's like, it fought the
It was a good
Revolutionary
idea.
War, first president. No, we need something about him chopping down a tree. That's what the
But
kids
it
want.
worked, didn't it?
I mean, it stuck
It's
around
lie.
for a long
Yeah,
time.
for some reason, everyone talked about that.
I don't think that's the most notable thing about his life.
It's the
though.
only thing I know about George.
Did you know he was a president?
Barely. I remember that story of the cherry tree from like elementary school.
Yeah, it's been around since. I think that Mason Locke Weems actually wrote that while Washington was still alive.
All I know is
So
he's
it's
the
been
first
around
president,
for a
cherry
long-ass
tree,
time.
and wooden teeth.
Well, about the wooden teeth. I'll go ahead and clear up some other misconceptions before we move on. Washington didn't have wooden teeth. They were made from ivory, tin alloy, and teeth taken from horses, cows, and
And
slaves. Yes, slaves. Before the invention of dentures made from synthetic materials, real human teeth were used. And in fact, teeth were in such high demand that it was common for intrepid entrepreneurs to rip them from the mouths of corpses left behind after a battle.
Damn.
Washington's teeth, however, were most likely from dead slaves. But history is rarely
living
pretty.
slaves.
Or living. I like to think that they were dead. Because he wasn't, like, he didn't abuse his slaves. He freed them after he died. It's still a slave owner. Yes, I get it. But he wasn't, he was one of the good.
He wasn't abusive?
He was one of the good ones, you know?
Jesus Christ, Coop.
So something interesting
But
about...
he wasn't abusive to his slaves?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure that somebody would be able to come up with some sort of fucking example of him being a total piece. You can turn anybody in history into a piece of shit.
Right, but I mean, there's the kind of people that it's hard to find any evidence that they were abusive, and then there's the kind of people that it's very, very obvious that they were like beating and raping their slaves all the time.
For him, I would say that it was the former more than the latter. Like it seemed like so there's evidence that he actually did have issues with slavery, and he was somewhat of an abolitionist, like not a full-blown abolitionist, because he's going to get ostracized from every social group available at the time.
Yeah.
But he did see that he saw slavery as something that he knew was unjust, but it's the same way that we see iPhones as being unjust. But it's like, it's kind of. I mean, what am I going to do? I got to be able to scroll Instagram. When I'm taking a shit, I need to be able to get on Tinder.
Yeah.
So a whole lot of children need to suffer for that, apparently.
Fucking hell.
Another misconception is that George Washington wore a white wig. In reality, he powdered his hair to make it white, as was the style at the time. His natural hair color was red. He wasn't a full-blown ginger, though. Not a full-blown ginger. It was more like a chestnut, like a reddish brown. Still a little bit more red than I would prefer on a man.
First president was a redhead. Was he Irish?
No, not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure Washington isn't an Irish name. Mm. But like red hair... it only looks good on women, in my opinion.
Conan?
Conan wasn't a redhead. Oh, Conan O'Brien. I thought you meant O'Brien or the Barbarian. I wouldn't say that he's exactly a sex symbol, though. I mean, he doesn't look bad, but I mean, having red hair is the least of his problems.
Yeah. Dude, parents are fucking child slave owners. They make them work for free. They hit them. They kick them around. They tell them what to do, and they have to like clean the house for free. They don't get paid.
Slave owners were just giving their children tough love.
So it's no. I think in a way, children are supposed to be slaves. It's part of growing up. So I'm okay with it now.
Second hot take of the episode, and also, by the way, drink. I think that deserves a drink. So another little fun fact. You know where powdered wigs came from?
Wait, I thought you said it was his actual hair.
No, I'm just saying, like, powdered wigs were popular at the time.
Yeah.
You know where that came from?
Is that French shit?
Actually, it is the most French thing that you can imagine.
Yeah.
It came from STDs. Syphilis, in particular. So, upper-class people started, after Christopher Columbus brought syphilis back to Europe, upper-class people started wearing...
He was French.
No, he was Castilian. Essentially Spanish, like close to being Portuguese.
Well, we don't really know. He was apparently
Nobody really knows. He could have been a redheaded Irishman. That's true. Or was he Scottish? Whichever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's pretty much the same fucking place.
Your dad's a drug dealer. It's hard to tell where you came from.
He was a cheesemonger. So powdered wigs came about because people started catching syphilis, and it creates these horrible, rotting, open sores all over your body, like on your scalp and things like that. So they decided the best way to cover up these horrible, rotting, open sores on their bodies was to just cover it up with a wig. But then it still smelled like rotting flesh, so they would put scented powder onto the wigs.
Whoa!
So it was all about covering up the fact that you were a horrible,
French,
dirty, degenerate, French
STD.
Degenerate. French degenerate is kind of I feel like French degenerate means an oxymoron. Right? Yeah. It's kind of a hat on a hat.
French is English for degenerate.
Yeah. To me, it's synonymous. So at the tender age of 11, George's father died, and he was sent to live with...
His father was 11 years old when he died?
Dude, yeah. And George Washington was 10 when his father died.
Holy shit.
They matured a lot faster back then.
Yeah.
Kids these days, they stay children up until their 40s.
Yeah.
Or at least I hope that's when I stopped being a child.
I didn't.
So at the tender age of 11, George's father died, and he was sent to live with his half-brother Lawrence, a captain in the British Army. Larry had a profound influence on George's life, introducing him to the military and teaching him the skills he would need to become a true man.
Wow.
Under Lawrence's guidance, George learned how to ride horses, shoot a gun, survive in the wilderness, and most importantly, how to satisfy a woman.
Fuck
Lawrence
yeah.
also taught George how to be a gentleman, showing him how to dance, how to dress, and how to properly strike a woman if she got out of line.
Oh, fuck.
You got to do it hard enough to convey the message, but not so hard that you do permanent damage. Lawrence treated George like a son, and George looked up to him as a father figure. When George was 16, he became a surveyor and began exploring the wilderness of Virginia. He was fascinated by the rugged terrain, the exotic wildlife, and the vast forests that stretched from horizon to horizon. He was also fascinated by the Native American tribes that he encountered on his travels and was eager to learn more about them, such as their culture, their way of life, and the most efficient way to kill them. Because he was a true American through and through.
Did he kill a lot of Native Americans?
Yeah, probably about as much as anybody in the military would have back then. I mean, there were some that they're going to be allies with and some that they're going to be against. They're all kind of getting the shaft regardless. So, yeah, he was participating in that.
Okay.
George's love for adventure and slaughtering natives led him to join the Virginia militia in 1753. He quickly climbed through the ranks, and in 1754, at the age of 22, he was appointed as a lieutenant colonel. For his first mission, he was sent to the frontier to help defend against the two biggest threats to the fledgling country: Native Americans and filthy Frenchmen.
I'm going to open this fucking
Canned sake?
Kanasaki.
What's that stuff called again?
Bushudo.
What's the backstory on that? When did you start drinking that stuff? I've never known you to be a sake drinker.
I've always liked sake. But
Really?
you only get it when you have the money to go have sushi.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Unless
My
unless you
dad
drink it straight from a
loves
can.
Oh, this shit's good though. Can you see it? We have video now.
Drink.
It's good shit.
Oh, the whole top comes off?
Yeah.
I thought it was a pop top like a beer or something.
No, it's just in the can. Try it. Have some sake, Coop. Oroko sake.
What's the traditional cheers when you're drinking sake?
Hey.
Hey!
Or it's Majide, actually, I think.
Mashide?
Well, that's Japanese. Is sake Japanese? I think they...
Is there a difference?
Majide.
Mashide.
Yeah. That's Japanese for cheers, but I think it actually translates to drink at all.
Oh, shit, that's good. It's weird. Almost has like a martini flavor to it. Kind of like,
Ooh,
like
that
there's
is
some
so
vermouth
good.
in there. That is really good.
And strong, too.
Okay, I know I was talking shit about that earlier, but that
good,
is
huh?
really good. Hey, everybody, just got a few quick words from our sponsors before we get back to the story. And our first sponsor today is Qualia Mind by Neurohacker. In today's fast-paced world, you need to be firing on all cylinders if you want to keep up, and that's where Qualia Mind can help. Neurohacker combines 28 of the most research-backed nootropic ingredients on Earth into the ultimate brain fuel formula, and it's been changing people's lives for years now. True story, I've been on it for probably about a month and a half, maybe 2 months at this point, and the difference is noticeable. Within the first few days, I started noticing a difference in my mood, my focus, my memory. I haven't been losing my keys as much as I used to, and also the overall drive to get things done is much higher. So at the end of the day, when I'm usually dragging ass and really don't want to be working, I'm able to just keep going. The formula is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and the ingredients are meant to complement one another, increasing each ingredient's effect on mental clarity. It's also backed by a 100-day money-back guarantee, so you have plenty of time to try Qualia Mind and decide if it's right for you. As a side note, if you're on an SSRI, talk to your doctor before trying Qualia Mind for the first time to make sure it's right for you. I haven't had any bad interactions myself, but just want to give you fair warning. See what the best brain fuel formula on Earth can do for your mindset. go to neurohacker.com/icon for $100 off. That's only $39 a bottle. And as a listener to Iconoblast, you can use code ICON at checkout for an extra 15% off your first purchase. That's neurohacker.com/icon to try Qualia Mind with code ICON to experience life-changing mental performance. And next up, we have one of my favorite longtime sponsors of the show, SimpliSafe. Did you know that property crimes like burglaries and package thefts spike over the winter? Because I actually didn't know that. That's why now is the best time to secure your home with award-winning home security. SimpliSafe is the home security system we recommend to everybody. Make it a priority to give yourself greater peace of mind and safety for you and your family. So, true story, I actually just purchased my first home recently, and the very first thing that I got for it was a SimpliSafe system, because I just have faith in what they do, and it gives me a lot more peace of mind, because I have two beautiful dogs at home, and I don't want anything happening to them. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, and that's 3 years in a row now that they've been voted the best security system. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. SimpliSafe is a whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. They have HD security cameras for both inside and outside your home, motion detection that only alerts you when the threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs under $1 per day. That's less than half what ADT charges. And the difference between ADT, well, one of the many differences between ADT and SimpliSafe is ADT has to be installed by professionals. SimpliSafe, you can install it yourself. Even if you're not tech savvy, you can get it done in like 30 minutes. With the top-rated SimpliSafe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. Arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust your settings literally from anywhere in the world just using your phone. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/icon. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off your order with interactive monitoring. That's simplisafe.com/icon, because there's no safe like SimpliSafe. Now back to George Washington. George's first mission was an absolute disaster. And actually, the majority of his military career was an absolute fucking disaster. He was actually a terrible general. He was charismatic, he was inspirational, not the best strategist, in my opinion. In pretty much anybody's opinion, he wasn't the best strategist. He led a small force in an attack on a French fort, but the wily French and their Native American allies were ready for him. They quickly surrounded George and his men, forcing him to admit defeat and surrender. The French, having never met a real man, treated George with respect, likely out of fear of retaliation. George was eventually released, but the failure haunted him for the rest of his life. He had learned a very valuable lesson about the dangers of overconfidence. Despite this setback, George continued to serve in the military and became a highly respected leader. So remember when I said earlier that he joined the Virginia militia, and the following year he was promoted to lieutenant colonel? He enlisted as a major, and that's weird because that's not even an entry-level officer.
Yeah, how did
in
you pull that off?
modern military, that's just kind of how the military was back then. If you were a wealthy landowning white dude,
Intelligent,
and who was able to read, they're like, oh shit, yeah, you're officer instantly.
So his what's the guy's name that taught him? Did good.
Larry?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Larry Washington did a real good job.
Larry fucking handled business, dude.
So one of the things that caused George to join the Virginia militia was his brother Larry unfortunately died, and I think it was 1752 or 1753. The year before George joined the militia, Larry died.
So he was like, fuck this.
Yeah, and it was also something very devastating for him because so Augustine died when George was 11. Then he spent the following 9-10 years with his older brother Larry, who was like a father figure to him, and then he died also.
God damn.
Yeah, not the best of luck. I mean, people dropped like flies back in those days, though.
True. I'm gonna take a drink for each one of them. To Larry.
To Larry.
And the chick's name.
Augustine? That was his dad.
Oh,
To Augustine.
yeah, that guy too. Sorry, when we do the ads, I just forget everything that happened before the ads.
All right, where did I go off? Okay, so he continued to rise through the ranks, becoming a colonel in 1755. It took him like 3 fucking years to become a colonel.
It's gangster.
They played things fast and loose back then. His early years had been full of adventure, excitement, and raunchy sexual escapades with loose women.
What?
That might be a little creative liberty.
Was that taken directly from the text, or
That's straight out of his biography. That's what old Mason Locke Weems was writing about him. Like, dude, George could lay some pipe.
Because of our 100 episode, in my mind, it's just Jesse doing all this.
Oh, I would love it if she was. But
Wait, was what, the president,
oh shit, yeah, that too.
or having raunchy sexual?
No, I was going to
escapades?
say if Jesse was here to reenact everything that I'm reading about George Washington.
Oh, yeah, that episode was awesome.
Well, despite all the exciting sex with loose women of ill repute, George craved more. Deep down, he knew that he was destined for greatness. Little did he know that he would one day become one of the most important figures in American history, if not the most important.
Was he actually banging a lot of chicks?
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Yeah.
No, let's pretend he was. He was, dude.
I mean, if he's smart, can read, handsome. No, he has red hair.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, he's no Rob
And
O'Neill.
any paintings of him, he does not look like handsome. He looks kind of like fugly.
Well, they had different standards back then.
Different tastes, you think?
So if you weren't actively literally rotting from some sort of disease and you were white, number one most important thing for him is you got to be white.
Okay, so far nothing's changed.
You have to not be dying from some horrible disease. Being literate, that was another big plus. Primarily, just so happens that when Larry died, he inherited Mount Vernon, which was a very, very large plantation. He was a bit of a rich kid.
Okay.
Mount Vernon was a big ass plantation, and it came with a handful of,
Helpers.
let's call them interns. Drink. After many years of getting dicked down by the Brits, America had finally had enough. In 1775, the Revolutionary War kicked off, and George Washington led the charge.
Look.
As the man had the biggest brass balls in the room, he was appointed commander-in-chief of the Continental Army and tasked with whooping King George's fancy ass all over the eastern seaboard. And he, in the long run, did a good job. But again, I want to reiterate, like, he was not a good general. He was not
Yeah, I
a
remember
good
you
military
saying that
leader.
before. Was that was on episode 100 where we talked about it?
Yeah, I'm sure it probably came up. But anytime that somebody starts talking about George Washington, like the fun facts that I like to bring up, number one is that he was a shit general. Like, he was a horrible general. He lost more battles than he won.
Damn, I didn't know that.
George knew that he was facing. Okay, so I do have to give him some credit. Like, the British vastly outnumbered the U.S. Army. The Continental Army was probably about 50% farmers and then 50% like kind of trained soldiers. And most of them were, I mean, they were most likely trained by training with the British. So they're using the same tactics and everything like that. But yeah, the United States back in the day, there wasn't a professional standing army like what we have right now.
Right.
They did have a standing army, but the majority of the people that fought in the Revolutionary War were just militia. It's like the good old boys that you would find around here in this area that just, they've got a rifle, they've got a love for
Hunting
America.
rifle or something else.
Yeah, and they're like, well, fuck it, I love this country. I got a gun, let's go do it. And that's about as much training as they would get.
It's so crazy. Is it a miracle we won?
Oh yeah. Oh dude, it's an insane miracle that we won. Like it is ridiculous that we were able to beat the British. I literally think that the only reason that we beat the British, and I'm sure that there's some more knowledgeable historians that would be able to correct me on this.
Yeah.
But I think that it was really just like good old American gumption that got us through the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
It was on the American side of the fight. It was a bunch of people that had been surviving in this rugged wilderness for years and years, settling this new country. They weren't growing up in like nice cushy cities over in the UK. Like they're out there settling the frontier. These are hard people that have to go
got
through.
tough.
Yeah.
And they had kids that got tough.
And yeah, they had kids that got tough. It was multiple generations of hard times making hard men.
Yeah.
And by the time they decided to start fighting the British, they were fucking rock hard.
And the British were soft in comparison.
Yeah. And they still are. George knew that he was facing overwhelming odds. The Brits had nearly 50,000 well-dressed and disciplined soldiers on U.S. soil, along with 25,000 loyalist troops. And the loyalists are people that are living here in America, but they still side with the king.
Yeah.
And 30,000 Hessian auxiliaries, which are essentially like German mercenaries. They weren't technically mercenaries because auxiliaries are more like they're professional soldiers that work for another country, and that country is like, okay, we're assigning these soldiers to you, as opposed to them being an independent force that you're just paying money to have them fight for you. That's really the only difference between auxiliaries and mercenaries. Mm. And also 13,000 Native American warriors, which I dare say were probably more deadly than the entire rest of the British Army combined.
Probably both sides.
Now, George, on the other hand, only had around 40,000 American soldiers at his disposal, forcing him to borrow some troops from his former enemies, the French. Mm. I do really want to stress that, though. That's 40,000 total in his army, but it had to have been at least like 50% of them that were just militia. These are just guys that just grab their hunting rifle and they're like, all right, let's fucking do it.
Yeah. Like the Hissate or the Hissites that took the castle.
Yeah. It was
farmers.
It was more a mob than anything else, but they had some
they
fucking
were tough as fuck.
They had some fire in their belly. So those baguette filleting frogs provided a little over 10,000 soldiers, but due to them being French, they were roughly the equivalent of 1,000 heavily armed schoolgirls. Despite the disparity in numbers, George was determined to fight for the freedom of his country, no matter how many French lives it cost him.
Fuck yeah.
He rallied his troops and led them into battle, where the Brits promptly whooped the living shit out of him for about a year. Like the first year of the war.
Was he being smart? Maybe he was
loss.
Retreating?
No, he was flat out getting his ass kicked. Like he wasn't. Again, I gotta stress it. Like he was not a good general. He wasn't the best strategist. He was, in general, he was a good leader. He was inspirational. He was willing to be like in the fight with his men because he personally led charges in battle. Also, like when he was fighting in the Revolutionary War, he was actually fighting.
Yeah.
So I think that part of it, he was more valuable as an inspirational figure and someone for everybody to kind of focus on. It's like, oh,
George is here.
We may be losing, but there's George. He's still here with us, so we still have a chance. That kind of thing, even though he was a shit general. The first year of the war opened up with a series of defeats for the Continental Army. George struggled to keep his troops motivated in the face of repeated failures. He was criticized by many for his strategic blunders, but he never lost his faith in the cause. And that's another thing that was very valuable about him, is he did not give up on this overall idea. There's that famous quote, which I think it was Jefferson that said that. I'm pretty sure it was Jefferson. We must all hang together, for we will surely hang separately. Like when they did that shit, they were signing their own death warrants if they didn't win. If they were to lose this war, every last one of them would be executed. No question. There's no way that any of them were coming out of it alive if they lost.
Right.
Whereas anybody that was fighting in the army, like anybody that was fighting in the Continental Army, there's a good chance that the vast majority of them are going to be forgiven for it and just be like, okay, just go back to rendering unto Caesar, paying your taxes and all that shit, and we're cool.
Fine.
But yeah, everybody that was leading the charge, totally fucked.
Dead.
All right, let me take it back one sentence. He was criticized by many for his strategic blunders, but he never lost faith in his cause because his heart pumped red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
He ate tyranny for breakfast and crapped freedom. He made sweet love to Lady Liberty and shot thick, ropey loads of patriotism across her ample, heaving bosom. And he wasn't about to let a gaggle of posh cunts trample Old Glory and get away with it.
Yeah.
After all, he's George motherfucking Washington.
You fucked the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, yeah, like before she was even famous.
That's awesome.
George knew that he didn't have the numbers to win by brute force alone. The real key to victory was outmaneuvering the British Army. As the winter of 1776 approached, he faced a seemingly impossible situation. His troops were demoralized, running low on supplies, and on the verge of giving up. But George could not afford to lose any more battles. So he did what only a madman would do. He led his men across the freezing Delaware River in the middle of the night to launch a surprise attack on the British.
Oh, fuck.
And it was an absolutely insane plan. Because even the British, that's the reason that the surprise attack worked, is because only a fucking idiot would have done what he did in that situation. In the middle of the night, in the middle of winter, crossing a freezing cold river, and the way that...
No bridge.
No bridge. They're going across in like shitty little boats that they probably had to build themselves on the banks of the river, and went across, launched a surprise attack, and fucked up the British.
No
hardcore.
shit.
The move was risky, and many of his officers thought the plan was insane. But George didn't care what those fucking pussies thought. He was a true American to the core, so he hoisted his massive cock over his shoulder and led his troops through the frigid waters of the Delaware River. The British Army at Trenton never saw it coming.
I imagine them all just walking, holding their guns over their head. The river was like exactly 6 feet deep.
It's like right up below their noses. Yes. And can you imagine how fucking cold? Like, they don't even have good clothes to wear in the.
They're already
in the middle of
freezing.
Like,
now they're wet.
They're already half dead, but they're still going to go across this river and take the fight to the Brits. Which, I mean, admittedly, you are fighting the Brits, so it's kind of like crossing a frozen river to go beat up a bunch of little kids. But still, there was a shitload of little kids across that river.
Yeah. And they beat the shit out of them all and made them and started making them make iPhones.
George's success at Trenton was a turning point in the war. It gave the Continental Army a much-needed boost in morale and inspired many more soldiers to join the fight. George's daring tactics and leadership had saved the day, and the colonists saw him as a hero.
Yeah.
The British, however, weren't ready to give up. They regrouped and prepared to counterattack. George once again found himself facing overwhelming odds. Now, would his leadership be enough to save the day yet again, or would the fledgling Continental Army crumble under the might of the British?
How many fucking...
You'll have to wait till next week to find out.
Oh, shit. It's a
two-parter.
It's a hangnail. Or not a hangnail.
This is a cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
You can't fit all the glory of George Washington in a single episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. Wait, but so the surprise attack, how much damage did they do?
It wasn't enough to cripple the army, but it was enough to start. I think the most important thing that happened in the attack on Trenton was it was inspirational to everybody else in the army. It was a win, and it was also a very visible and public win. So that started getting more people joining his cause. That they were able to recruit more soldiers. People would go and more men would go and sign up for the military because they were like, "Oh, George is actually winning now. Fuck yeah, I want to be on the winning side."
That's fucking
It was
awesome.
Realistically, I imagine it was probably a whole bunch of fence sitters. They were just kind of like, well, let's see who's coming out on top, and then one side, I feel like one side's coming out on top. That's who I'm going to go join up with.
Like America in World War I.
I don't know. I'm not sure if we would ever join the German. No, we probably would have joined the German side in the right situations.
If it was either that or lose, everybody.
I think overall, if it was either join the losing side or join the winning side, we probably just would have. I feel like we probably would have just sat the war out because, dude,
No,
America didn't.
We're America. If it was either join the losing side or join another side we didn't like, we would just say, no, we're going to win, and we would kill all of them.
And then we fight both sides.
Yeah, we're fighting both of you. We can't decide.
No, I honestly don't even understand why America joined in World War I because, dude, America did. Now, respect to all the people that did fight there, especially Harlem Hellfighters. The Harlem Hellfighters were fucking badasses. We'll do an entire episode on them.
I realize that I don't know anything about World War I. Anything I do know, which is very little, is old World War II.
It's not a very American war. Like,
that's why
we came in right at the beginning and like stomped around, did a little bit, walked around with our fucking war crime sticks, the 1897 pump action shotgun, which the Germans fucking hated, by the way. The Germans were trying to stop, like they were trying to accuse America of being war criminals for using a shotgun. They're like, It's just
fuck is
it's
this?
just cruel. That's horrible. Why would you bring such a horrible weapon into warfare while they're using fucking poison gas on everybody else?
Yeah, and
Goddamn
flamethrowers.
and fucking flamethrowers. Goddamn hypocrites. But yeah, a shotgun that'll most likely kill you in one shot. No, that's just unreasonable.
Sawed off.
But yeah, America didn't play a very big role in World War One. We came in right at the very end.
We were hard men back
when it was
then, though.
kind of already decided. And again, I don't want to take away from the respect that I have for the soldiers that did go and fight.
Yeah, who was like the main? And I know we're kind of this is an episode of its own.
Yeah,
Who was like the main force that fucked up? That won.
I'd say that. Ooh, this is going to sting for me to say this.
The French.
The French. I would say that the French had the biggest
It
influence
was like
on.
it was like France and Britain, right? Didn't the UK
Yeah,
lose a shit ton of troops or something?
yeah. I think that France took the brunt of it.
No wonder they are the way they are.
That was the last good war for them. Or no, I
Well,
don't
it
even
fucked
think
them
that
up. They
was-
got PTSD.
Yeah,
They're
generational
mad at us.
PTSD.
They're
and-
mad at us for coming in late.
Still a
you
bunch
know?
of fucking pussies.
No.
I'm sorry. Okay, so the main thing that I know that I talk a lot of shit about France, but the main thing that pisses me off is like they were an absolute military powerhouse for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They're the descendants of the fucking Gauls.
Right.
The Gauls are the only people that ever gave Caesar a run for his money,
could fuck up the
ever gave the
Romans.
Romans a run for their money, fucked up the Germans. Like the Germanic tribes, when they tried to come across the Rhine, they got a little help from the Romans, sure, to push them
They're
back.
just done with fighting, man.
Yeah, their last good fight was probably
World War One.
Agincourt.
Was that after?
No, that was way before. No, because I don't think that. Okay, I mean technically, yeah, our side won World War One, but back in the day, France would have never. They wouldn't even need anybody else's help. They would have handled it on their own.
So you're just mad at them? They're not as tough as they used to be.
Absolutely, they come from the Gauls.
Well, you better start getting mad at fucking the United States soon.
Oh no, I am. I rage about them all the time. I love the country. I hate the people leading the country, and I hate the direction that they're taking the country because
A lot of weak people
the
in this
government
country now.
is just turning everybody into massive fucking pussies.
Yeah.
But not back in the day. Not back when this country was founded. The
Dude,
strong men.
I was
that-
just
that
in
built this fight. Well, like strong men and women that built this fucking country.
They're still
Those are
tough.
the true Americans.
They're still tough. I think it's what is the generation before? It's boomers, Gen X, and
So it goes.
millennials, and then Gen
Goes
Z.
the silent generation, greatest generation, boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. I think Gen Z is gonna.
Gen X was the last of the tough ones, and they weren't even as tough.
Yeah, partially. They were
There's a
they were the
percent of the millennials
first
that are
ge-
still tough.
there was Gen X was the first generation that the boomers started fucking up,
Yeah,
and then the millennials got even
Gen
more
X
fucked
really
up.
fucked up the next one.
Yeah. Now Gen Z on the other hand is horrible. Yeah, but I think that they're going to be tougher than millennials or Gen X
You think so?
because it's the way that I see
Because
it.
they're gonna see how soft everyone is. Want to
well,
change something.
well, it's like the whole cycle. Because I mean, look at the world that they're inheriting at this point. Everything is real fucked up right now. And as the old saying goes, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men. Weak
Right.
men make hard times make strong men. So
So we just have to survive the cycle. We'll be strong again.
we set the stage for Gen.
That's why
for
there's
Gen
Chinese
Z.
balloons in the air, because they know we're at our weakest and they're gonna bomb us.
Oh, dude,
Dude, I was on an Uber
That's not even a joke. Like that's the reason that China feels so comfortable fucking with us.
because we're at our
Is because
weakest.
they know that our government is just filled with massive fucking pussies.
Yeah, I was in an Uber and he was like, "So what do you think about all these balloons?" And I was like, "I don't know what to think. Maybe they're Chinese. Maybe it's drones. All this shit happening with the trains crashing." And he was like, "I know exactly what it is. They're just finding out where everything is, and then they're gonna bomb us soon. They'd just be happy that no balloons flew over Austin, or else they'd be planning on bombing something here."
So they're not going to attack us first. What's going to happen right now? They're gearing up to attack Taiwan, and they know that we're going to retaliate as soon as they attack Taiwan. So they're getting the lay of the land for what we've got going on over here, kind of probing the borders. I think that like the whole balloon thing, not the $12 Hobby Lobby balloon that got shot down by a $400,000 missile. That was just kind of a fuck up where they were trying to make up for the fact that they didn't shoot down the first fucking balloon like they should have as soon as it got into American territory. But what they're doing is they're kind of getting it's probing. They're
probing,
collecting collecting information, and they're also just seeing like, hey, I wonder what they would do if we just go ahead and violate their territorial sovereignty. Let's see, like, how are they going to react?
We did that much.
No, we didn't do shit until it was already on its way out of the fucking country. That shit should have got shot down before it reached the coast of Alaska.
We should send like 15 like Budweiser blimps over there, over their fucking country now, just blasting Leonard Skinner.
Yes, Freebird. Not the entire song, just specifically the solo on repeat.
Yeah, it's an extended 10-hour version of the song that doesn't stop and restart. It just plays forever.
Continuous loop. You can't even tell where the beginning of the song is.
Yeah,
the solo
flawless.
just keeps fucking going.
Yeah.
Now that's the way that I want to spread freedom across the world.
Yeah,
It's Freebird.
and just they crash into anything that is remotely cool that China has. The blimps just crash into them. They don't blow up. They just kind of land on them, and the blimp just falls over it. It's like a mess, but the music never stops.
So it doesn't even have any explosives on it or anything like that. It's just kind of a pain in the ass.
It's just fucking annoying, and it's so loud. And like the speakers and everything is like in a black box. It's like impossible to destroy. It's super heavy.
Make them waste a $400,000 fucking missile destroying that shit.
Yeah, like make it so hard to turn off that audio.
Yeah, in case it's not clear, I am so extremely disappointed with our government and our military right now. Not the military
on a political show.
Not the military on the grand scale.
That's not really politics, but
it's not political. It's just common fucking sense. You don't let other countries push you around. It doesn't matter that we live in like one of the most peaceful eras in human history, which we do. We live in by far the most peaceful period of human history
we've ever had in history
with more slaves in it. I don't want to say that correlation equals causation. I'm just saying, let's not be so harsh on our ancestors. No, I'm no, that's true. There are more slaves now than there ever have been in human history, and that is also extremely fucked up. That we're focusing on the ones that are already dead across the globe. We're focusing on all the slaves that were fucked up long ago.
Yeah, nothing we can do
without
about
even
that now.
paying attention to the ones that are still being fucking enslaved. It's like, no, I'm not getting rid of my iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too, though, because I'm not giving up my iPhone.
Yeah, I don't think I will.
I wouldn't mind getting.
It's like my main way to communicate with my wife while she lives overseas.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a Tesla someday. Also,
Teslas are dope. Dude.
I know, dude. They're fucking awesome.
Yeah, it should just like it's. Like cars and stuff. They compare them to.
I can already tell
horses.
that I need to open another beer for this one because I'm sure that this is going to be a drink.
No, like because they tell you how powerful a car is by the horsepower, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of horsepower, it should be like slave power or children. How many children powered this fucking thing?
Okay, yeah. Oh, first of all,
drink.
True. Second of all, drink.
At least something to be proud of.
If I knew more about cars, I could probably make a pretty solid joke about. Oh man, how much slave power you got under there?
500. Is that 500 child horsepower? Child power?
Is that thing a Hemi? Well, anyway, that's it for this episode. Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I wanted to talk about this bar I went to when I was in Amsterdam.
Since
it's at the end, I'll just talk about it real quick.
Let's go ahead and let's go through that. I'm sure people don't mind sticking around listening to. Listening to
it's
this
just
stuff.
It was something I'd never seen before, any bar in my whole life. And maybe you have, but either had my wife. So,
did they have holes drilled in the bathroom stalls?
No, I've seen that before.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, dude, that's
totally normal.
Trust me, I recognize it when yours comes through. Oh yeah, by the way, Ruben, I saw your comment on the 1-star podcast, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah, it was good. What was it?
I should have wrote it down so I can mention it on the episode.
Coop looks like the.
He looks
bathroom
like
attendant
at a glory hole. No, Coop looks like he just got done with his job as a bathroom attendant at a glory hole or something like that. It was a good enough burn that I thought it came from good old BT Bates, because BT Bates is usually the one that's got the good fucking zingers.
Good zingers, yeah. But yeah, so I was in Amsterdam for a week, hanging with the wife, still working. We both had to work, so it wasn't like full vacation, but like at the end of each workday, we would go do something. We went to the red light district, and then
as you do as a good loving couple,
which was fucking crazy. I actually got some footage, but there's this. I was just filming my wife walk, like I was behind her, just filming her walk.
I remember you told me they get all uppity if you try and film
They're
them.
standing in the doors, right? It's just doors and doors and window doors made of glass, and hot naked chicks standing there. But if they see a phone, they fucking slam this curtain closed and just start banging on the door, and it's fucking loud. And
What the hell?
because I didn't know that was a thing, like I was just filming my wife. They weren't even in the frame. Like I wasn't even like pointing it at them. They were to my right. And all of a sudden, Harold is banging. I'm like, what? And like they would open and be like, yeah, like piss off and close the curtain and bang. And then I was like, oh, I didn't even realize what was going on. I was like, oh, is someone being raped or what's going on? Like I didn't make the connection that it was because my phone was out. And then I did. I put my phone away, and then they literally just like, and just went back to normal and stood there. And then I started paying attention, and you can hear it. Like everyone that doesn't know, you're not supposed to have cameras. You just hear that banging.
What the hell?
All around the whole place, yeah.
So what was the deal with this bar?
Oh yeah, so the bar was cool. So we went to like red light district, and there's a couple other like top 10 things to fucking do, which is all touristy bullshit, you know.
In the red light district is one of them?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first place I'd go. I wouldn't even need to see it in like TripAdvisor or anything.
Yeah. Oh, dude, something else that was really crazy is I just went to the red light district. I come home and I'm house sitting for Holloway while he's at the fucking Daytona 500, and I play the new Call of Duty for the first time, the campaign, and like the second level, it starts in the fucking red light district, and I recognize
No way.
I recognized the street. Like I was like, I just was fucking standing there a week ago. It was pretty cool. But anyway, so I wanted to go to like a local dive bar, and we were in like a local neighborhood that was about half an hour from the main downtown, and it felt like, oh shit, I'm in Saving Private Ryan again. This is awesome. It felt like we were in a local place. So I found a local bar in the first couple of days I was there, and I was like, I don't care what we do. We can do anything you want. We just have to go to the shitty dive bar at least one time while we're here. So it was the last day before we were leaving the next day, and I was like, we didn't go to the bar. We got to go. And it was like 9 or 10 at night. So we walked there, and it was like from our place, it was like 20-minute walk. So we walked to this bar, and we get there, it's fucking dive bar. And it's a European dive bar, so you feel a little more uncomfortable. But that's part of the enjoyment of going to a dive bar. Like,
is it European dive bar like more dangerous than an American dive bar?
Well, in my mind,
Sketchier?
It feels that way. Well, because you can't speak the language, and if it's actually you don't know. Like here, if I go to any bar in America, like I feel like my instincts and shit kick in when this is a dive bar, but this isn't actually a good place to be.
You know what to generally expect in America, so if it's something outside of that, you naturally know that something's off.
Like
but
if I'm in a bar that's a dive bar, I can usually tell if the people there are actually shitty or if they're cool people in a dive bar.
But if you're in Europe, everybody's shitty.
Everybody, yeah. Well, actually, that's the way it feels because I can't communicate. I don't really. Everything's different. Like the way they communicate, the way they move. It's hard for me to tell who's good and bad. I feel like when we go to the local bars in Austin, I can tell right away who's cool and who's not. You know?
Is it true that their knees bend the opposite direction over there?
Yes.
That is so fucking weird.
Okay, I'll get to the point. So we go in, and it's all older people, and so that was one of the things too. Like we were pretty tired, and my wife didn't want to go, and I was like, come on. So we went. As we walk in, I'm like, fuck, I blew it. Because if it ended up being awesome, it's going to be a great night. If it's bad, then she was right,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, fuck. So I was like, I fucking blew it.
You had a lot riding on this.
So we walk in, and after 10 seconds of looking at the place, I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I was like, one drink, and we'll get out of here,
Uh-huh.
So we sit down, and the bartender's name was Elle, and she must have been 65, and it was scary at first. She was smoking. Everybody was old as shit and laughing and drunk as shit. It was Friday, and
so far I feel pretty good about all this.
Yeah, the place didn't have the charm of a bar. Like the way it looked, everything felt a little off. So my guard was up. I wasn't liking it.
Yeah.
Then we ordered drinks. Drinks helped a little, and that bartender was whooping ass, like fast, quick, ordering drinks. She knew everybody by name that was there. I'm like, dude, this is local. Okay, this is what I wanted. Then I was like, let's just have shots after the first round. I'm like, I'm starting to like this. But then everything changed. She like out of nowhere, I don't know why, she just pulls out this giant plate. It's got like sausages cut, cheeses, crackers all over it, like good quality.
Like a
And just tries
charcuterie board?
something like that, yeah, but piled on more like a pile, a little more like a ghetto charcuterie board. And she tries to hand it to me, and I thought maybe she thought I ordered something. It looked like I ordered a plate, you know. So I was like, "Oh no, thanks." And she was like, "Okay," like basically was like, "Fuck off," and then handed it to the next guy. The next guy just grabbed the plate, set it down, kept talking, like ate one thing, and slid it down. The next guy grabbed one thing, ate it, and was talking. And then I watched this plate
What
of
the
food
hell?
go through the entire bar, like, and no one talked about it. It was normal there. And the plate, by the time it made it back around, everything was almost gone. And then they passed it back to me. The second time I understood, so I got it. I ate a sausage and I passed it back down, and it went around again, and it was done. She came over, grabbed the plate, and took it back.
Dude, you were like Antonio Banderas in the 13th Warrior. Except instead of everybody passing around a bowl of water that they're like blowing snot into and rinsing their mouth out with, it was just a bunch of sausage.
That's true, because that was the other part that happened. After a few
Oh,
more
it
shots,
would've been
and
even
food,
better if one of them
I
just
started understanding
took
the
a bite
language.
off it.
The whole time when I was looking, it was like,
You would just pick up like
and then,
one little
by
word
the end
here
of the
and
night,
there.
they were all speaking English. No, but I
that's
thought
such
that
an
was so
accurate
cool. And then she was doing that about every 10 or 15 minutes.
Just a
It
new.
would be something else. Then it was like a bowl of peanuts, and she just like came over and handed it to one side, and they all
And then it
kinda,
just passes around the room?
The people just pass it. She doesn't have to do it. And then like after 30 minutes after that first big plate, another one of the same stuff.
What the hell?
It was so cool, and everyone knew it was a normal thing there. Yeah.
Okay, admittedly, I'll give the Europeans one thing. I'd trust their hygiene a little bit more in terms of, like, I'd at least expect them to have washed their hands.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any bar that I can think of in the continental United States where I would trust food that was just passed around an entire bar.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it. It wasn't the most hygienic thing, but no one gave a fuck really. But
Well,
they
if
weren't.
it's
Nobody
not
like
hurting
nobody
them.
there was like that dirty looking either. Though they were all like blue collar motherfuckers working hard. You could tell that, and they were all in 50 plus. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And something else. I mean, that was the story. That was like I thought it was so fucking cool, and it was funny because we were gonna leave, and then that happened, and I was watching it, and I like looked over at my wife, and she was smiling. I was smiling, and it changed. And then all of a sudden, I just was like, "What's up?" Like I tried to talk to them. None of them spoke English yet. As soon as I started talking, they were like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?"
They just,
And then I
they
made-
just started fucking speaking English.
Started speaking English, and then it became this whole thing where they were all excited that there was people that weren't locals there.
Uh-huh.
Because everyone goes to downtown and nobody goes to that bar. It's actually like a local bar. Then the owner came out and was like fucking hammered and kept giving us free shots. I got like 4 free shots. One thing was like this top bottle of whiskey. It looked like an eyeball. It was like super fancy glass and with the net around it and shit. And he was like, fuck it. You know, grabbed this and poured shots. I was like, cheers. And we like drank them. It was awesome.
Dude, that sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool, and we had a good time. We were hammered. Getting back home was difficult, but yeah,
Well, I mean, none of their roads run in a straight line, right?
yeah,
Aren't they
no,
all
they're
fucking-
all windy. They're all cobbled, so you twist your ankle all the time. But no, I thought that was super cool. Like, I'd never seen that at a bar, and the bartender was awesome. Just, like, people knew her so well that they were going behind the bar all the time and like fucking with her, and like it felt like a family. That's all.
That's cool.
They didn't smoke inside, but she would light a cigarette, like, and this was just like the fucking food coming out and everyone kind of knowing. She was so good at her fucking job. Like, she could tell when there's a dude there that she knows needs a cigarette. I would watch her take a cigarette out, light it, and give it to a guy, and he would walk outside and smoke it.
What the hell?
Yeah, and sometimes she would light 2, boop boop, give one to some guy. They must have talked it in a language I don't understand. There was some communication that seemed so smooth. Mm-hmm. And she would light them both. He would leave, and she would go out the back door and have a cigarette break. You know?
Dude, that sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool. And that's why I started drinking Heineken, because that's all they had for beer there. It was just a Heineken tap, or everything else was bottled. And then,
I thought you meant
hard
that it's like,
liquor.
hey, you can either have Heineken or you just get whatever pure grain alcohol that we have like in this strange.
Yeah, it was a
tub over here.
Heineken tap, and I guess apparently that's where Heineken started in Amsterdam. So
It's no Lone Star. You know where Lone Star started?
Texas.
Right here in Texas.
So that was the story I wanted to tell you, but I saved it for the show. But yeah, I wish there was more shit like that going on out here. It's community connecting, even if it gives you hepatitis.
Well, the place that I just took you to earlier today,
Yeah.
which is, by the way, fucking awesome having a brewery directly behind the studio.
Yeah, that's great.
Since this studio doesn't have a brewery or massive pallets of alcohol inside of it, you have to go out back. But it is a cool place.
Dude, I bet you could work a deal like as soon as you get this going as a place where people are renting it out and there's multiple shows here, you can get some sort of discount deal going where like,
ooh, that's a good idea.
hey, if you rent this studio, you go next door to warm up and you get free beer for just going in there with this coupon or something.
Oh shit, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, if you order food, you get a free beer. They would probably do a deal like that.
We'll discuss that a little bit more after the show. But
Yeah.
yeah, the vibe that I get from that place whenever I go there is everybody knows everybody. And like you were saying, where the regulars go behind the counter and just pour themselves drinks and stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
what I was telling you about my former brother-in-law, Franz. That's what he does when he's over there is like if they start getting too busy, he'll just start working. Like he'll go back and pour drinks for people. He'll pick up their empty food plates and go and throw them away. Like he'll take orders over to the kitchen and drop them off, and like everybody there knows him. But that's the overall vibe of the place is everybody's local. Everybody lives within a very small radius of the place,
Right.
and they all just know each other.
That's
So it's got
it's
a
a good vibe.
really good family vibe. So if anybody's ever out in Bernie, Texas, go to the Barrelman Brewery. I highly recommend it. And then if you're an Iconoblast fan, go ahead and come up front to the studio. I'll probably be here.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing that happened at that same bar. There was this dude asking for money, but everyone seemed to know him. They're like, "Oh, shut the fuck up!" And he was trying to get money because there's you can gamble in there. There's like a fucking not a casino, but like one of the machines,
Is it like a slot machine?
like a slot machine, or it was So he was trying to get a euro,
Mm-hmm.
and this one guy gave him a euro. It was all in fucking I don't even know what they speak there.
I don't either. and I feel like I
Netherlandish?
should. It's they were speaking Netherlandish.
Yeah, and so this
Peter
guy.
Pan's language.
He came in behind the bar, which you could never do that at any bar out here.
No,
You know,
very, very.
She was
few.
like, the bartender was like, "Oh, I'm not giving you any money." You know, this was the vibe I could tell. And then someone he was just standing in the middle of behind the bar because it's shaped like a horseshoe, so it's like right in the middle, and he was just going down the line trying to ask each person for a fucking euro to gamble. But when he was asking, I didn't even see the machine yet. I hadn't processed what was he doing? Did he need a beer or what? This one guy gave him a coin. He was like, "Yeah," and he took the coin, went over, put it in the machine, and he won.
How much did he win?
It was, I don't know, probably 20 euros or 50 euros or something like that compared to the one. And he was like, "See, I told you," but in another language. He buys like a beer for himself. So he goes over, he gives the guy 2 coins. And the guy's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like,
Dude,
"Yeah." And then he goes right back and starts playing more. He probably just loses it all. But I'm looking at the guy.
That was a good return on investment, though.
He doubled his money. But,
Yeah.
But I looked at the guy and I was like, "What the fuck was that?" And he knew I didn't speak their language, so he looked at me and he was like, "I told that motherfucker that we split half whatever he makes." That son of a bitch.
So he was supposed to
yeah.
get like 25 euros.
Yeah, yeah. And he was like, "That son of a bitch just took all the money." I mean, he gave me my money back. But he's a motherfucker. But they were all laughing about it. Like, it was like a normal thing. There's like this old drunk gambler guy that has no money.
Uh-huh.
That just always spends all his money at the fucking shitty casino machine at the bar. Anyway.
Okay, maybe there are some things that I like about Europe. Well, that's it for this episode of the Iconoblast podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, everything like that on any of your favorite podcast applications. Also, go to the YouTube channel, the Iconoblast podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe, join us for our Monday night premieres. Every Monday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, Joel and I hang out in the chat, talk to everybody, make dick and fart jokes.
Video's back.
It's like an extension of the podcast itself. You really don't get the full experience unless you go to the YouTube channel.
True, yeah. It's like a separate show in the show.
Yeah.
Some people say like, "Fuck, I was so involved in the chat that I didn't pay attention to the show. I'm gonna have to watch it again."
And see,
Listen to it again.
That's part of the business plan is you get them to listen to the audio and then tune into the video also.
There you go.
But you do kind of get a second show because Joel and I hang out there in the chat and we talk to everybody. We all have a good time. Everybody, like, it's a solid group of friends in the chat. Like, everybody knows everybody.
We're always
else.
in there.
We got new people that come in like every week. There's some new names that are popping up in there, and it's always just a lot of fun. So highly recommend it. You can follow us on Instagram at Iconoblast Podcast. You can follow me at Coop Nukem, and you can follow Joel at Joel R. Benner. And until then, that's it for this episode. My name is Matt Cooper.
I'm Joel Benner.
And we're reminding you to never take anything at face value.